All right, well, welcome to 3-Minute Thesis for 2021. This is a lot different than we had last year in person, but want to thank everybody for their willingness to do 3-Minute Thesis this way, virtual, make sure everybody's safe, and especially for our judges and for our competitors for their willingness to be versatile. And this is not an ideal situation to do it this way, but really appreciate. And as somebody has seen, the chat box is live. Yes, this music is familiar. Our the Songs of Our Native Daughters is the name of that group, and that was something that our educational psychology group shared last year with some panels that they're doing. So great music. So welcome. My name is Brandon Chapman. I'm the director of marketing and communications here at the College of Education. And the College of Education has a long history in 3-Minute Thesis. This event was brought to the university in 2014 by our Dean, Mike Trevison. And since that moment, the College of Education has consistently performed very well in 3-Minute Thesis at the university level. The university picked up on this event. And so this is, believe it or not, the 8th year that our college has done 3-Minute Thesis. So I want to thank Dean Trevison for bringing this to WSU initially. The winner of today's competition will win $750. Second will take $500. Third will bring home $250. Fourth and fifth, $100 each. Everyone gets to put this on their CV though. Additionally, the winner of today's event will get to represent the college at the university's 3-Minute Thesis event. And that's where the winner from every participating college or campus sends their winner to that event. This year, the event is going to take place on Wednesday, March 24th at 7 o'clock. So information on where you can watch that event, you can find that on the 3-Minute Thesis site. That's at 3mt.wsu.edu. So the numeral 3, mt.wsu.edu. For the sake of brevity, we won't go over each competitor here, but we will introduce them as they present, and we will present a bio that they gave to us. You can see who they are. You can read a summary of their research. You can even see a slide, the slide that they will present here as part of their research presentation. So that same 3mt.wsu.edu site, just put a slash and education 2021 after that. So that's 3mt.wsu.edu/education 2021. So we thank each of these competitors for being here, and we wish them well. We'd also like to thank our judges for their time, and photos of the judges and who they are is also on that same 3mt.wsu.edu/education 2021 site. The 4 judges are Kim Hollapa, who's Associate Vice President of External Engagement and Strategic Initiatives with the Division of Student Affairs, and many in our college know Kim very well. Ellen Taylor, Associate Vice President of Student Engagement with the Division of Student Affairs. Sarah Zaski, science writer in the News and Media Relations team with University Marketing and Communications. And Connolly Roden, Scholarly Assistant Professor of Communications and Journalism in the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication. So we want to thank them for their time. So now let's present. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the competitors. And we're going to begin with Chioma Eza from our Language, Literacy, and Technology program. Chioma's research is at the intersection of second language acquisition, literacy, and technology. Her research interests included pedagogies and educational technologies that address linguistic diversity in the classroom and differentiate instruction to leverage on students' full linguistic repertoires to support their literacy and bilingual development. So Chioma, go ahead and unmute your camera. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to talk about my research.
And as soon as we can see you there, Chioma, then.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Hi,
And whenever
everyone.
you're ready, take a deep breath and here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to talk about my research today. Conversations around educational equity have thrived.
Chioma, I can't hear you, so let's start this over again.
Oh my God.
We're all working through that technology. So I heard you great earlier.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay. I'm getting notes saying we can hear you okay. So my apologies, and let's do that again.
Okay. Conversations around educational equity have thrived, but an important component of it that is yet to gain accord in the discourse is about addressing the mismatch between language education policies and the dynamics of language practices constituting today's multilingual classrooms. Why is this a concern? Demographics of American schools have changed, with population of English language learners consistently increasing and projected to reach 25% of total public school population by 2025. These changes reflect increasing multilingual practices of a globalized world, which, if not addressed, will set back a huge population of Americans from global economic competition in a multilingual world. While efforts have been made over the years to develop bilingual education policies for English language learners, many of these students are still underserved. Why? A major drawback of current models of bilingual education policies is a failure to address the fluid language practices that frame the day-to-day lives of bilinguals. What are these fluid language practices? They include different linguistic codes, registers, and genres that emerge from a range of linguistic abilities and social experiences, which bilinguals creatively deploy to communicate meaning in diverse contexts. Now, bilingualism is a process that develops and emerges along a continuum. At various points on this continuum, these fluid language practices are resources that help bilinguals to develop meta-linguistic awareness of relationships and variations between languages, which could potentially expand their bilingual and biliteracy skills when tapped. Recent scholarship calls for dynamic bilingual education policies that build upon a full range of bilingual fluid language practices. Studies have shown that this approach to education makes students proficient bilinguals and biliterates and more academically successful. In the light of this, my research explores how bilingual fluid language practices are engaged and supported at grassroots for optimal learning. As every policy has an implementational space that allows its reproduction and translation into practice, I seek to understand how teachers negotiate the mismatch between language policies and the actual bilingual fluid language practices they encounter daily in the classroom. Such understanding could inform future conversations around language policy planning and educational equity. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you so much, Chioma. Our next competitor is Justinas Calvin from Language Literacy and Technology. His research interests are in the areas of language teaching and education technology. In his free time, Calvin likes to cycle, hike, and blog, and maybe he'll blog about this, in fact. All right, Calvin, you're up.
At the end of every semester, university students in Indonesia and the United States usually submit a written evaluation that conveys the lecturer's overall teaching performances. At WSU, we know it as the Students' Blue Course Evaluation. But imagine, what the lecturers usually read every semester is only short written feedback from their students. For example, teacher, you did a great job. This evaluation mechanism may fail to show exact teaching aspects that the lecturers need to improve, specifically in the current transition from face-to-face to online learning. At that point, the lecturers might need a critical friend or someone who can listen well and give constructive feedback to form a critical friendship or a collaboration that encourages reciprocal and non-judgmental discussion and reflection to enhance the quality of teaching and learning practices of the lecturers. Framed under the critical friendship principles of peer observation, reflection, trust, and growth fostering interaction, my qualitative case study conducted the critical friendship involving 3 American lecturers as the observed teachers and 1 Indonesian doctoral student as the critical friend and a class observer at a state university in the US. My study then explores how the critical friendship process can contribute to the lecturer's teaching development in a face-to-face English teaching class and online synchronous English writing environment and benefit the critical friend pedagogically. By building trust with one another, video recording classroom practices, and constructively discussing the lecturer's classroom teaching performances based on what the research participants saw in the video, The critical friendship is found to help the lecturers be more aware of their teaching behavior and what happened in their lesson. That awareness then helps the lecturers initiate some positive teaching-related changes for their future classrooms, such as checking students' understanding of classroom discussions more frequently and being more careful with classroom time management and stories to discuss in classrooms. We should be inclusive for all students from different backgrounds and nationalities. At the same time, the critical friendship also enables the critical friend or the Indonesian doctoral student to learn various teaching and learning activities, materials, websites, and real-life lessons of being a trustworthy and open-minded person from the lecturer's teaching practices in the US settings, which can be adapted in the critical friend's future English classrooms in Indonesia. Based on these findings, my study holds the strength of the oral collaborative teaching reflection approaches to provide more concrete, specific, and meaningful feedback for the lecturers than only reading the students' written feedback of, "Teacher, you did a great job." Thank you very much.
Calvin, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Amanda McMahon is our next presenter in the Prevention Science program at WSU and the lab coordinator for the Psychology of Physical Activity Laboratory. Her research focuses on promoting the overall health and well-being in at-risk populations. Amanda.
The constant demands and pressures that emerging adults face on a daily basis can leave them vulnerable to experiencing high amounts of stress. This is especially true for emerging adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD. These individuals face unique challenges, such as limited coping strategies, which have been linked to increased stress. Although stress can be healthy in small doses and is universally experienced, too much of it can be harmful to an individual's physical and mental well-being. As a result, it is imperative to investigate strategies that can be used to help make life less stressful for this particular at-risk population. Mindfulness is one strategy that can help reduce stress among emerging adults with IDD. Mindfulness refers to paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally, and state mindfulness refers to the quality of mindfulness at a particular point in time. Monitor and acceptance theory helps explain how mindfulness can ease feelings of stress and stress-related outcomes. This theoretical framework posits that paying attention and accepting physical and mental sensations are underlying mechanisms that explain the effects of mindfulness training. Although the use of mindfulness to help reduce and prevent stress among emerging adults with IDD is on the rise, more research is needed to effectively promote practicing mindfulness in this population. One reason for this is that these individuals may need additional support when first learning about mindfulness. Innovative methods that can help them cultivate the practice and integrate it into their daily lives could help address this issue. Moreover, teaching and promoting the practice has traditionally been delivered face-to-face. While this approach is valuable and effective, factors such as time and the requirement to attend sessions in person may act as barriers to practicing mindfulness. A novel approach to promoting mindfulness in emerging adults with IDD is technology-supported mindfulness strategies. Specifically, mobile and wearable devices may be able to encourage, guide, and foster mindfulness practice. This can include mindfulness-based smartphone apps, such as the Headspace app, and wearable EEG devices, such as the Muse, that provide neurofeedback cues to help individuals practice mindfulness and can measure how mindful the individual truly was during their practice. So during my thesis, I piloted and published this work, and my dissertation expands on this work, where I plan on conducting a mixed method study where I will use an alternating treatment design to test the effects of using the Muse, the Headspace app, and no technology on state mindfulness, attention, acceptance, and state stress. I will also explore the experiences of and attitudes towards mindfulness practice in emerging adults with IDD after they have been exposed to these 3 different strategies of practicing mindfulness in the form of interviews. Exploring and using these devices have the potential to further our understanding of how to promote mindfulness in this vulnerable population. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Amanda. Joe Crandall is our next competitor. Joe is a student in the Math and Science Education program on the Pullman campus. She has a background in applied mathematics, which fuels her curiosity about the experiences of those who use math and computing to tackle real-world problems. Joe.
Imagine you've enrolled in a university course on digging holes. Like many others, the course had a prerequisite. In this case, the challenging class on tools for working with dirt. You spent a long semester learning to use all types of picks, trowels, and shovels, like this one on the left, and got an excellent grade. But at the first day of the hole digging class, the professor seems to expect students to be familiar with using an excavator, like this one on the right. Suddenly you're lost, and both you and your new professor suspect you've been inadequately prepared for the class. This perceived disconnect is how many engineering students can feel when transitioning from an important math prerequisite called differential equations to the engineering classes that depend on them. These differential equations are mathematical tools for understanding systems that are changing. They're used by engineers and scientists to model things like the fluctuating temperatures on a Falcon 9 rocket engine, or even the speed with which a virus is spreading. For a long time, methods taught in differential equations centered around paper and pencil solutions of equations that appeared in textbooks, but almost never in the real world. More recently, math educators have moved away from this one shovelful at a time approach by incorporating more realistic problems, focusing on conceptual understanding through problem-based learning, and incorporating the use of modern computing tools, the excavators of mathematics. But even with these ongoing changes to math instruction, engineering educators still find that students who encounter differential equations in engineering contexts have difficulty identifying which mathematical tools to use. More work must be done to help students effectively harness differential equations knowledge in problem-solving contexts. In order to accomplish this, we need to understand these students' ability to interpret their mathematical knowledge in those engineering problems. Yet, while most research is focused on increasing performance in differential equations classes, almost no one has investigated whether students are increasing their ability to select and apply these math skills in problem-solving contexts. This is a gap my research is trying to fill. This is important because research has shown that while mathematicians and engineers use many of the same tools, differences in their expectations, terminology, and even disciplinary values can prevent students from recognizing when and how to apply their math knowledge. And so, in conjunction with a series of cognitive task-based interviews and investigating the use of differential equations in current chemical and mechanical engineering courses, I'm investigating not only the views of the math instructors, but of the engineering instructors, as well as the very students who are constructing their skill set drawing from both areas. Only through this cooperation of areas of expertise can we understand how innovations in teaching differential equations can equip future engineers to choose the right tool for the job. Thank you.
And Joe, thank you very much. Pruksapan Bantatuk is a Fulbright scholar from Thailand and a doctoral student in the Language Literacy and Technology program. Pan's research interests include teaching literature, foreign language teaching, instructional technology, and language task engagement. She wants to be a teacher mentor who develops approaches for foreign language and literature teaching.
As a language teacher, I always wonder how to better engage my students in a task I give them. It is because previous research says task engagement can predict language achievement. Also, I have taught international students, and I recognize that sometimes my students were engaged in different types of tasks. So, my doctoral dissertation aimed at finding out the engaging characteristics of language tasks and whether learners' cultural backgrounds can influence the perceptions of these tasks. I distributed online surveys asking students to explain why they like their favorite tasks. I received responses from 173 students from 5 countries. Those responses indicated several engaging task characteristics, but there are 3 important ones. First, engaging tasks should help improve students' language skills and help them acquire knowledge beyond the classroom. Second, engaging tasks should allow students to interact with other people, such as peers, teachers, or native speakers. Third, the last one, engaging tasks should also give students positive feelings. Students are engaged when they have fun. When integrating a cultural lens to take a look at these data, I divided the students into 2 culture types based on their national values. And then I have traditional survival and secular survival. In general, Traditional survival students respect authority and obey the rules more than secular survival students. I know that not everybody fit the stereotype, but this method led to some interesting findings. For example, both groups agreed that in order to be engaging, tasks need to be connected to real-world situations. Another finding showed secular survival students also perceived that engaging tasks should allow them to take control over their own learning, while traditional survival students rarely mentioned this point. These results reveal that both groups are different yet similar. Well, if there should be one takeaway from this study for everyone, it could be that cultural background says something about a student, but that something is not everything about them. People from different culture might share something in common. So, teachers and everyone, get to know your students, get to know your friends for who they are, not only where they are from. Thank you.
Pon, thank you so much. Dustin Van Orman is a doctoral candidate in educational psychology. His focus is on how assessment and teaching practices can be leveraged to enhance the learning process for students and build lifelong learning skills. This includes engagement with prospective and practicing teachers to build assessment literacy in planning, implementing, interpreting, evaluating, and using high-quality activities and results with students to drive learning. Prior to coming to WSU, he served as an educator in the US and China for 10 years in a variety of roles, including as a marine science, English, Spanish, and social studies teacher, and English teacher educator. He holds degrees in European studies, linguistics in Spanish, and sociology from Seattle Pacific University, and applied linguistics from the University of Nottingham in Ningbo, China. Dustin.
Imagine you share a room with 8-year-olds each day, every day. Your task is to help each of them learn to read, write, and speak with purpose. You'll need to guide the development of lifelong learning skills, set up experiences to collaborate with diverse others, and be there as children navigate their identities. If this immense task interests you, you should consider becoming a teacher. My research focuses on one aspect of a teacher's skill set that can have far-reaching effects on students: formative assessment. Research shows that formative assessment impacts student learning and motivation deeply. In formative assessment, teachers, in partnership with students, plan and implement a process of goal-focused tasks and activities. These are opportunities for students to use and demonstrate what they know and can do, and for all, teachers and learners alike, to learn from these experiences and change what they do next. They talk, write notes to each other, ask questions, explain their thinking. They use feedback to themselves, peers, and with teachers to understand how work and performances compare to masterful descriptions of what it means to be successful. And learning from this process, they take steps to revise, try new strategies, and set new goals for themselves. These assessment practices positively affect student motivation, learning behaviors, emotions, achievement, and yes, their identities. What teachers know about students, how they're thinking, what they can do, it informs the best course of action in the next moments, weeks, years. So how do we help teachers learn to do formative assessment effectively? We need an evidence-based description of what teacher candidates would do with assessment and the beliefs about learning they bring to working with children. But also, we need to know what we can do to prepare teachers for formative assessment. The 2 studies I'm conducting will address these issues in a big way. The first study, teacher candidates from across the United States are engaging in a simulation of teaching that prompts them to make important assessment decisions with students and say why. I follow up with an interview to talk with them about their beliefs about learning and assessment and the rationale that informs what they would do. In a second study, I've gathered and am synthesizing hundreds of research studies that examine teacher preparation for formative assessment. My work is to understand how teachers use goals, design high-quality tasks and activities, and cultivate a culture of collaboration with students to improve. Soon, these studies will spur efforts to provide transformative experiences for teachers to learn to do formative assessment well. Research tells us that formative assessment is effective and may contribute to revolutionizing students' approach to learning for a lifetime. What teacher candidates bring to teaching and the experiences they learn from in teacher education each impact the teachers they'll be. Together, these studies are vital to preparing the next generation of teachers to be a formative force in the lives of students, who too will go on to make an impact with the world.
Dustin, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Finally, our last competitor is Jamie Rice, Academic Program Manager for the School of Design and Construction, where she provides leadership and coordination for academic program activities, including admissions, recruitment, and advising. A descendant of the Yakama Nation and Nisqually tribes in Washington State, Jamie is simultaneously pursuing her PhD through our Cultural Studies and Social Thought in Education program. Jamie.
Yakama Nation scholar and activist Dr. Michelle Jacob writes, "All peoples who live, work, learn, and play on indigenous homelands have inherited the legacy of colonialism. To heal the soul wounds of intergenerational historical trauma, all peoples have an important role to fulfill. We all benefit from healing social change." Landing on Meaning is a project in which students consider traumas often hidden in plain sight in public monuments and memorials, visible symbols playing a major role in creating public memory and collective identity. But these are not neutral. There are consequences to how a story is told. While Confederate monuments receive focus, less attention is given to those recognizing the history of genocide and exclusion of indigenous peoples. Less still to workers, women, and people of color, vital to building and growing our nation. Landing on Meaning gives voice to these histories by flipping settler colonialism with people's history, raising viewpoints alternate to the dominant conversation that can be examined in relationship to monuments and memorials, characterizing racial oppression and maintaining gender stereotypes. Examples pictured on the slide, starting clockwise at the top. The face is carved on Mount Rushmore, meant to symbolize American freedom and democracy, but to American Indians like Oglala Chief Ben Black Elk, symbolize theft and desecration of a spiritual site. The Early Days Monument in San Francisco, depicting a Native American at the feet of a Catholic missionary and Spanish cowboy, critics call degrading and historically inaccurate. A statue in Virginia showing Lewis and Clark confidently viewing the Pacific Ocean for the first time, while their courageous guide, Sacagawea, is in a subservient position. In using monuments and memorials to study cultural landscapes, the question is not only who is remembered and memorialized, but how? Who has been erased? What does it say to a group when a historic figure who had committed crimes against members of their community is raised up on a pedestal? Impacts from paying reverence to mostly white men are profound. Less than 10% of all outdoor sculpture are dedicated to women's history. Symbols matter. What do they say to those neither white nor male? This project at Washington State University, in relationship with land grant heritage, contributes to understanding the symbols and systems of historical trauma, and offers opportunities for accepting the important roles necessary on a path to healing social change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I appreciate this. It was great to hear all of these wonderful doctoral students and their research. So what we're going to do now is we're going to give the judges a few moments to compile their scores and look through before hitting submit. And then we're going to have our administrators have some time to look through those and make sure that the scores are accurate, and then we will be back to announce the winner. So in the meantime, we're going to have a little intermission. We'll have some music, and then when we come back, we will announce the winners.
sun, we'll be dancing. When the day is done, the moon meets the sun, we'll be dancing.
Like the rabbit, we won't bend to your will. Like the spider, the smallest will still prevail. The stories of our elders, we find comfort and peace. We smile to the sky, we move to stay alive, and we do dance.
Ah, you still at work for your profit, but we're dancing. Ah, you think our home we have forgotten, but we're dancing. You can't stop us we'll now. Be dancing. You can't keep us we'll down. Be dancing. You can't stop us we'll now. Be dancing. You can't keep us we'll down. Be dancing. You can't stop us we'll now. Be dancing. You can't keep us we'll down. Be dancing. You can't keep us down. You can't stop us. You can't stop us. You can't keep us down. You can't keep us down. Kashiba, Kashiba, Yafina, Yafina, how does your spirit fly? Blood in your blood, bone in your bone, by the grace of your strength, we have life. From the Golden Coast to Ghana, to the bounds of just Grenada, you kept the dream of hope alive. They burned your body, they cursed your blackness, but they could not take your lights. Kashiba, Kashiba, you're free now, you're free now. How does your spirit fly? Blood in your blood, bone in your bone, by the grace of your strength, we have life. Raped and beaten, your baby's taken. Starved and sold again. Shiva, Shiva, you're free now, you're free now. How does your spirit fly? Blood in your blood, born in your bones, by the grace of your strength, we have life. You were forgotten, almost forsaken. Your children founded generations. Your strength sustained them. They won their freedom. Trace their roots to find your way there. Kashiva, Kashiva, you're free now, you're free now. How far your spirits flow. Blood in your blood, born in your bones, by the grace of your strength, we are one. Blood in your blood, born in your bones, by the grace of your strength, we are one. By the grace of your strength, we are home. We are home. We are home. We are home. When the day is done, the moon meets the sun, we'll be dancing. When the day is done, the moon meets the sun, we'll be dancing. Ah, you put the shackles on our feet, but we're dancing. Ah, you steal our very tongue, but we're dancing. Brown girl in the rain, raise your voice and sing. Sing us songs, sing us freedom. Hold us steady, keep us breathing. We'll endure this. You can't stop us and we're dancing. Ah, you steal our children, but we're dancing. Ah, you make us hate our very skin, but we're dancing. We're your sons, we're your daughters, still yourselves down the river. Made a God that you gave us. Forgive you your trespasses. We'll survive this. You can't stop us and we're dancing. When the day is done, the moon meets the sun, we'll be dancing. When the day is done, the moon meets the sun, we'll be dancing.
Like the rabbit, we won't bend to your will. Like the spider, the smallest will still prevail. The stories of our elders, we find comfort and peace. We smile to the sky, we move to stay alive, and we're dancing.
Ah, you still our work for your profit, but we're dancing. Ah, you think our home we have forgotten, but we're dancing. You can't stop
I own I am shocked at the purchase of slaves, and fear those who buy them and sell them are knaves. What I hear of their hardships, their tortures and groans, it's almost enough to draw pity from stones. I pity them greatly, but I must be mum, for how could we do without sugar and rum? Especially sugar, so needful we see. What, give up our desserts, our coffee and tea? Besides, if we do, the French, Dutch, and Danes will heartily thank us, no doubt, for our pains. If we do not buy the poor creatures, they will, and tortures and groans will be multiplied still.
All right, we want to thank you for joining one more time for our college 3-minute thesis. This was a very close competition. I'm looking at these results. It's pretty impressive, actually. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Sherwin, who's helped out. Thank you to Sherwin Francis for, as you can see, he's got something up there on the screen right now. So, normally we would build a lot of suspense, but I think our competitors want to know right now. They want to know the results. So without further ado, 5th place and the winner of $100 is Amanda McMahon. Well done, Amanda. 4th place, also a winner of $100, Dustin Van Orman. In 3rd place, the winner of $250, Jamie Rice. 2nd place, the winner of $500, Pan Bontatuk. And the winner of $750 and the ability to represent the college in the university's 3-minute thesis on March 24th is Joe Crandall. So well done, Joe. And again, on a normal year, we'd hear applause and it would be all very exhilarating and we'd have pictures and all that. And this is maybe a little anticlimactic feeling for you. But it's no less stellar of a performance for you and all of our competitors. Thank you so much for doing this, and we'll make sure that in the very near future we have the opportunity to have you take a picture with your chair and the dean and do what we do on a normal year. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your willingness and your courage to participate. Thank you to our judges for the time and effort that they took. I enjoyed seeing their notes, which are going to be available without names, so available to those individual competitors. But for everybody else, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the college and for these amazing doctoral students. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.